Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Indie Choice Picks show. Now, I haven't done one of these interviews in a while, mainly because I don't have anyone who wants to come on the show. And that's not a bad thing. It's mainly because I got a majority of my guests from Twitter, and I'm not on Twitter anymore. So I'm slowly starting to rebuild my campaign or following back up, if that's what you want to call it. But if you're watching this and you follow me on Twitter and you know people who are working on projects or webcomics or whatever, let them know that I'm back in business and would like to have them on the show. So please share this out. Let them know that I'm still back in business. Secondly, go ahead and check out my manga series, Ultima the Legend Untold. You can read it free on my website, heroicstudiosmedia.com. I just updated it today. After the day of this recording. I don't know when you're watching it. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, without further ado, I want to introduce you guys to a guy named Patrick Robinson. He's the creator of Terran Command Garrison, and he's actually a local artist here in my hometown. So please listen up, because he's the first artist who has gained a following without necessarily doing a crowdfunding first. So that's very important. So please take out your notepad, take notes, understand that there's a way. Kickstarter and Indiegogo aren't the end all be all. There's always multiple ways, and that's why I love doing this show. It brings ideas together and it gets people thinking on what they can do to build their audience for their book. But first, I need to make an important shout out to a man named John Isabello. I knew him as Free Isabello. He's the man, the one, the only, the legend who actually got me started in drawing comics with two very simple words: just draw. Unfortunately, our community lost John Isabello this last week, and it has been very hard on a lot of people who knew him best. Very loving, very open-hearted, and very supportive of people who were aspiring to be comic book artists. He was very good at what he did, but what most importantly thing that he did is that he supported other artists just like myself. So please, take a moment of silence and let us know, give your prayers to his family and friends. I usually don't get choked up on these shows, but he was very important. He was very important to all of us. And without him, I don't think I would be drawing comics. I probably wouldn't even be doing this show to help support other artists. So please, to all the friends and family out there who knew Free Isabello, Magneto Hands, I feel for you guys, and I'm right there with you. So please, take that moment of silence. Now, without further ado, let's get to our interview with Patrick Robinson, the creator of Terran Command Garrison. Take it away with the intro. There we go. Hey, Patrick, how are you doing, my man?
Not too bad. Good to see you.
You too, man. Now, I used to do the show a lot with various other people who were doing Kickstarter and crowdfunding campaigns, but I think you're the first person to come on the show, and correct me if I'm wrong, who haven't done a crowdfunding.
Not yet. We're getting there.
But you're planning on doing it.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's go through the motions here. Introduce yourself and what's the project you're working on.
So my name is Patrick Robinson. I am the creative director for New Wave Comics, which was started in 1993 in St. Louis, Missouri.
Wow.
We never got published back then. We got to the publishing point and our investors just kind of vanished into thin air. So 2018, we decided, hey, it's the 25th anniversary of when we would have published. Let's put out a book. And so we ended up putting out the preview issue for Terran Command Garrison. And there was a very positive response for that. And so right now I'm in the middle of writing the fourth issue of the 4-issue miniseries that will just kind of introduce the team to everybody, get everybody acquainted with their talents and abilities. And then another team will take an ongoing look at the Garrison from way back when it started.
Okay, cool. So you started this, did you start this company back in 93, or was it a group of other people and you're just kind of in the group?
So I had just dropped out of mechanical engineering, and a friend of mine brought me one of those tear-off tabs from the art department that said, "Hey, we're looking for pencilers." And I've considered myself a decent penciler at that point, although I can look back and see that wasn't the case. And so I met the owner of New Wave Comics. His name is Clayton James, and he had a full portfolio of characters and stories and ideas that was ready to go. I mean, it needed some massaging, it needed some help. And so I wrote the first issue and started cranking out pages. And then other art students came in and started producing their titles. So we had 4 or 5 books going.
Okay.
Ready to publish. And we advertised in the science fiction magazine at Washington University. It was called Syzygy.
Okay, cool.
We got our drawings in there 2 years in a row. And we got some buzz generated from that and just never got out into the public.
Oh, wow. It's funny that you said you dropped out of mechanical engineering because I'm actually a mechanical engineer. That's my day job.
Gotcha.
So I go to work, I do my job, and then I come home and then I draw comics too. So kind of a lot of that is going around, especially with the indie community. A lot of people have their day jobs and they come home and they crank out a few pages and they kind of make it happen. So my curious question for you is, what entails somebody to be an owner of a comic book? Like, what does that title actually means? Because we have people like me, I'm Heroic Studios, I own the company, but I don't really know what that means. You know what I'm trying to say?
Gotcha. So if you'd asked me 25 years ago, I would have given you a very different answer. And back then it would have been, oh, well, yeah, we just print books.
Right.
I found out the hard way that just because you have a great book printed with a flashy cover and, you know, all kinds of other cool stuff on the inside, maybe you're giving away keychains or pins or something with your Kickstarter. If it's not good and you can't get the word out, your book's not going anywhere.
Right.
Kickstarter has kind of helped boost the indie community. And especially since the lockdown started, I've seen a lot of close artist friends who have done extremely well kickstarting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of these guys are hitting 20, 30 grand easily.
Right.
With their titles. I don't even pretend to think that I'm going to, you know, hit that kind of level of fundraising when I get to that point. But no, ownership and even the creative director part is making sure that all the pieces of your company work well together. Mm-hmm. And that they're all working towards the same goal. Mm-hmm. And that nobody's making the company look bad.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of people don't really understand how much work goes into it. Like I said, a lot of people, they go to work, they have a family, they have to take care of kids, and then they come home and they draw. And that's usually for most people it. I mean, most people do that from day to day and they don't really put out anything, yet they call themselves like, I own this company or I own this production studios and stuff like that. And so what does it really entail? Have you put out anything or have you not? Like, I have a lot of books that I've drawn and I'm about to go into my first Kickstarter with my first, well, it's not my first project, but it's actually like third project down the road that I think that it would do good as a crowdfund. So I'm kind of in the same boat as everyone else, but I do these shows to kind of gain knowledge from people who have been in the industry longer. And I put it out on YouTube so other people can watch it and maybe gain some perspective and understand how this actually works. So it's not just drawing books. It's, at the end of the day, it's a business. You have to know how to sell and market your book, make it look nice, make sure everything falls in line and that people actually are reading your book. And it's a lot of work. It's a ton of work.
Yeah. And the only thing I would add to that is making sure that your intellectual property is covered.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Make sure all the copyright and all the bells and whistles are covered, because there are people out there that like to steal the work of other people. I've seen it happen and it sucks. It sucks a lot.
It does. It does.
So, tell us a little bit about your project. What's the story? What we're looking forward to reading here?
So the name of the book, and I will pull that up real quick, is
that one of your characters in the background on your wall? That's cool.
So Terran Command Garrison, or TCG for short, This specific miniseries is subtitled Jedi's War.
Okay.
Jedi Palamedes and her twin Kalu are a prince and princess from Ganymede, moon of Jupiter.
Ooh, okay.
How they get there? We explain a little bit of that throughout the process. So,
Okay.
are there people physically living under the surface of one of Jupiter's moons right now? Hey, we don't know. They could be. We touch a little bit on how they ended up there, and the two of them turn out to be powered. So Kalu can take energy blasts and focus that back on enemies. Jedi can take physical hits and focus that back as energy blasts toward her enemies. The people who surround them are there to protect them. They've been driven from their home to Earth. They've been hunted by a race of Saurials. The leader is a Triceratops, half man,
Okay.
and part mechanical as well. The people who created both races and both hybrids have the technology to allow reptile and human and mechanical to work together.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when you open up this issue 0 that I just held up, the very first page shows you a pteranodon that's been converted into a spaceship. So the ship is alive, but it's also got a lot of mechanical bits and pieces. And in this particular mini-series, they've just stolen that ship because it is, in their eyes, a huge weapon in the battle that they're fighting against these dinosaurs.
Got you. All right. How did you come up with the idea? Is it your original project? And if so, how did you come up with it? If not, how many people are on your team that's helping you do this?
So the original idea came from the owner of the company, Clayton. And a lot of the characters were close personal friends of his through school. So the Clayton gang didn't start out in space. It was Clayton and his best friends having all these adventures. And then as he got older, it turned into, well, okay, we're going to build a rocket and take off. Why not? My job when I came along was to refine those characters.
Okay.
To massage the story a little bit, give each character a little bit more personality. And the first couple issues that I cranked out had a lot of pop culture dialogue built in. Like you'll see references to Ewoks and, those kind of things.
Gotcha.
Just to kind of give them some 3D flavor.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
25 years ago, we had full teams. We had pencilers, inkers, and colorists. Fast forward to now, the entirety of issues 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be my work. So pencils, inks, colors, text, edits, publishing.
Oh, wow.
And the only thing I haven't touched is the covers yet.
So you're doing everything.
Yes.
How long does it take you to say do one page of the book?
So if I'm going from start to finish, no interruptions, I can do pencils in 4 or 5 hours, and then inks probably an hour to 2 hours. So that's about 6. And then colors would probably take me another 2 hours.
Wow. What do you use for your colors or program?
Started out with Manga Studio Pro.
Now it's Clip Studio Paint now, huh?
Yep. Upgraded to Clip. For some of the lens flares and those kind of special effects, I use Photoshop. Haven't really gotten into Illustrator yet, but I'm being told that I probably should.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who used to use Photoshop, but now the moneymaker on the market is now Clip Studio Paint. Like everyone uses Clip Studio Paint. I used to use GIMP because it was one of those free software programs, and it was very similar to Photoshop. So I was using that a lot to do a lot of my work. And then I went over to Photoshop. Photoshop it was too much for me, to be honest. I barely used it, and it slowed down my computer so much. So I heard about Clip Studio Paint. It was a one-time fee, you pay it, and that was it. So I was like, That sounds like a winner to me, and I've been using it ever since, and it's great. So I don't think I would ever give that up. So pretty cool stuff. So you're going to Comic Cons, and you're basically selling your books before you do the crowdfunding campaign. How is that working out?
So a majority of the sales are going to friends,
Okay.
right? Because you advertise on Facebook and your friends are like, hey, I want to read that.
Right.
The New Wave Comics page has about 400 followers right now. That's not a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't a whole lot of interaction when we post to it unless I share to my personal page. It's a weird way of doing things.
Right.
The reaction to the book when I'm at the con got a lot better when I got this banner.
That banner looks cool, and I like how you have it just situated in the background. That's pretty cool. I need to get one of those.
I haven't bought a green screen yet, so I figured that would work instead.
I never thought about using a green screen until now. How much does that run you actually?
So this the drawing is by Shelby Robertson.
Okay.
He was with Extreme Studios way back when, Rob Liefeld's crew, and still actually draws with them from time to time. And when I called him up and said, hey, would you mind doing a variant for me? He said, well, yeah, I can do the Spider-Man 300 pose for you with whatever character you want me to. He said, my followers alone will buy at least 100 copies.
Wow.
And he said, it'll be for you. Normally it's 300. For you, I'll do it for 110.
Oh, that was nice of him.
Well, I feed him, banana bread and Rice Krispie treats when he comes to the conventions here. So
and sometimes that's all it needs is just a nice little plate of food.
Butter him up a little bit.
So you're going to what was the convention out here that's coming up pretty soon?
So we've got Unicon coming up,
right,
the very first weekend of October. So the first, second, and third.
Right, and you're going to be selling your book there. And then after that, are you planning on launching your crowdfund, or are you going to wait and see how things go?
The owner of the company and I have talked about it a lot, and he wants to wait until we have all of the issues done.
Okay, makes sense.
Because I've seen some Kickstarters, like the books that are out in Walmart's right now, where they ran a crowdfunding campaign, they collected the money, they didn't send anything to the people that contributed, and then they used that money to kick off their own brand.
Yeah.
I don't want to even get close to that kind of situation.
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm like, so far all the projects that I've backed have been legit projects, and I've gotten everything that I've put in for. So, but I have heard horror stories of people putting in money for books, and they're not receiving anything or haven't received them any, years later, and they still haven't received it. And it's one of those things that's like scary because you don't know who this creator is, you never heard of them before, and I think that puts a huge stigma on actual indie creators who are really good at what they're doing, and they just want to tell a story. And so you get these people who are, a dime a dozen, who are great at what they're doing, and then you get that one bad apple that just kind of gives everyone a bad name, and it kind of hurts everyone at this point.
Right.
And it sucks, So I completely understand. So your books have been sold to your friends, family. How do you plan on selling more aside from your usual friends and family?
So traffic at conventions, other than friends and family, has still been pretty good.
How many conventions have you been in to where you've had success?
I've been doing conventions since late 2015, early 2016.
Oh, wow.
And probably doing 3, maybe 4 a year, but all local.
Okay. Which is good because, you get the local scene here to help out with that.
Right. I would say probably within the next couple of years, I will be going to, let's say, LA Comic Con.
Okay.
Or FanX up in Salt Lake.
LA Comic Con is pretty big. I mean, it's I wouldn't say it's like on par with San Diego, but LA is a much bigger city, I suppose. So you get a lot more of that. And with COVID kind of sort of waning, I know people are going to be trying to get back in on this circuit, because I'm trying to get back into the circuit and get my booths and stuff going up again. It's been too long.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have a tentative on my booth. I have a 10 by 10 simply because I've got boxes and boxes of comic books I have to sell. I already talked to one person about potentially selling his comics from my booth as well.
Okay.
But if he is not going to be able to make it, I can absolutely set aside table space for you if you can't get in.
Well, I'm not really there yet. I'm working on my first book, and I want to get it printed. So I don't really have any merchandise to sell yet.
Gotcha.
But a lot of people have been asking about when I am going to get it into print. So the plan is originally my book, Ultima: The Legend Untold, is free on my website. You can go and read it. I just updated it today. You can go check that out. But I want to get my footing into the door a little bit more with that. To where I can launch a crowdfunding campaign and get it into print. A lot of people want it in print. So that's my plan. And then I hopefully, once that is a success, I can go ahead and start rejoining the circuit with Comic Cons and stuff like that, and just getting my brand back out there, because like COVID really messed a lot of people up with that. And it sort of sucks, but yeah, like I said, it is what it is.
Yeah. What's your timeline right now?
Well, right now I'm coming close to the end of my first arc. I have 2 more chapters to draw, and then after that, I'm going to take a break from focusing on drawing and kind of shift gears over to more marketing and promotion and stuff like that, to where I can get more eyeballs on my stuff. So just doing everyday things to where like I'm sharing pages, I'm engaging with a lot of other creative artists and stuff like that. Talking to more people and reading other people's stuff in the high hopes that they'll go check it out and maybe like what they see. And it's a lot of work, and I'm not social media savvy, to be honest. I like talking to people directly.
Gotcha.
So it's one of those things that you have to learn it. You have to be uncomfortable for a little while, and I've been doing what I can to push what I've been doing. And it's really nice when you get like that thumbs up or that like from people on social media. It just kind of makes you want to draw more. So it's slowly building for me. It's kind of like starting over at the end of the day, I suppose.
So the second part of getting your book out there is, if you haven't already talked to some of our local comic book stores,
right?
There is quite a bit of support for local talent.
Are you talking like maybe Cosmic Comics or Alternate Reality Comics, those guys?
So those two, and then Fandiverse over at Cheyenne and Tenaya.
Okay.
And My Four Sons over in Boulder City.
Okay. I didn't realize there was so many more local comic book stores than that. Those Cosmic and Alternate Reality are the 2 that I know of.
And Ralph has a huge section of local books at Alternate Reality. And I think Cosmics may actually be bigger than what Ralph has in Alternate Reality.
Right. I got to go check those out. So, hey, that's some good news. So we're coming down to the end of our time here together. And one thing that I ask all of my guests is to give one piece of advice to run, I would say, to run a successful campaign, but seeing that that's your next step, what would you do? Let's say I consider myself a newbie, even though I've been drawing for years. I consider myself a newbie to promote work. What would you give the number one advice on getting your work out there?
The best advice that I've been given is a combination of a couple things. Matt Hawkins with Top Cow, very successful writer. Got to talk to him at Amazing Las Vegas Comic Con 2 years ago. And his first piece of advice was, if you're just trying to get out there, start with a webcomic. I've done webcomics. They're consistent. They get good views. And if you get enough people following your webcomic, they will start requesting books, more to the story than what they're seeing, 2-3 times a week.
Right.
The second is, make sure that you've got your property covered. Make sure that you're thinking big enough. Like, if you're only going to print 50 and you're only going to sell them at local conventions, that's about as far as you're going to go.
Yeah.
But if you've got bigger dreams, like you're shooting for a special on Netflix, you're going to have to hit all of the conventions within arm's reach. So you go to Phoenix, you go to LA, you go to WonderCon. WonderCon is Comic-Con light, but it's still huge.
Right.
And if they bring it back, it is a huge resource to meet publishers and artists. I would take advantage of every opportunity to do that kind of thing.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, that's my goal at the end of this year, or hopefully mid this year, beginning next year, is to get back into the circuit, because honestly, it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of cool people. You get to travel, you get to sell your books, you get to build your audience, and I think that's pretty neat in my opinion. So, well, Patrick, thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy Friday to come talk to me. Before we go, I don't know, but we've lost a quite a legend in our community this last week. John Isabello, true story. He was the one who told me to draw comics. He picked up some of my art and he looked at me and he goes, "Have you ever thought about drawing a comic?" And I like, never in my life. And he passed me one of his books and I said, you know what, I think I can do this. So special shout out to him. What happened to him was so tragic and kind of took me for a loop. Did you know John?
John was the heart and soul of the local comic book community.
Yeah, he was.
He was. When the ACC was together, he was one of a handful of people who led that.
Yeah.
I met John in 2012 when he was doing the Raw Artist Showcase.
Yeah, I remember those.
Right.
That's when I met him, actually, over at Blick Art Supplies off of Decatur, and where now it was a Target, but now it's the health district.
Right. He was super humble. He was super grateful to anybody who bought his stuff or even looked at his stuff. And he took that and he translated that into everyday life.
Yeah.
So I wasn't part of the ACC. I wasn't part of the Maximum League of Aspiring Artists when he was. But through all the conventions that we did together, my very first convention was the Great American Comic Con over at Sunset Sports Park. That I think maybe 6 people actually attended. And Free was set up next to me, and he had brought Quincy and Justin and Ishmael and Greg. Like, he brought people with him. That was his thing. It was, if he saw talent, like with you, he was going to say, yeah, bring it along. He didn't have a hate on for anybody else's property. And the last time I saw him was down in Boulder City. He came out to My Four Sons out there where I was doing a sketch artist gig. He came out there because he saw me posted on Facebook and he wanted to come hang out with me. And when he was there, he picked up issues 0 and 1 of my book. I tried to give it to him because, you know, he's given the community so much. And he was like, "Oh no, I'm going to pay for these." That's just the way he was. Yeah,
he was a very huge backbone in this community. And I would be remiss if I said I wasn't as involved with the community here, but I did follow Free on everything that he did. I think I bought majority of his still, his steampunk princesses that he did. Those were really cool. The Contraptor, I have his issues there, and a bunch of just random artwork. Like, I'm looking at it now, Spider-Man, because he knows I love Spider-Man, so he drew me up a bunch of cool Spider-Man poses, and had that little quote down at the corner saying, "Just draw," and I've been drawing ever since. So
good for you.
Yeah, man, he was very inspirational, and now that he's gone, I'm just going to keep on drawing some more just to honor him. He was a really good guy.
All we can do is pick up where he left off.
This is true. Well, Patrick, thank you for coming on to the show, my man. I really do appreciate it. If somebody wanted to go ahead and purchase your books, where can they go and get them? If you already had them printed, or can people go online and grab them?
So right now, people can contact us through the New Wave Comics Facebook page.
Okay.
We do not have any order links up currently. As a matter of fact, we're completely out of stock at the moment.
Oh, wow. Is that a good thing?
Well, I have to do some reprints before Unicon, that's for sure. But yeah, for the time being, that, Fandomverse, and My Four Sons are the places to get the book.
All right, great. Well, I will have the link in the description, you guys. If you like what Patrick is selling, go ahead and check him out. Try to get my hands on a few books too. So you might be hearing from me really soon there, Patrick.
Awesome.
Well, thank you for coming on to the show. And,
thank you for the invite.
Anytime. If you know any other artists who want to come and give an interview, let me know. My door is always open. I'm looking for more artists to come on and, talk a little. It'll be fun.
You got it.
All right, Patrick. You have a great weekend, and I will see you on Facebook.
Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Later.
And that is it for this episode of Indie Choice Picks. Guys, we made it to season 3. I'm excited. I am so stoked to get new creators onto this show. If you are an indie comic book creator or a writer or whatever, as long as it's indie, I want you guys to come onto this show. I am now taking submissions to have guests onto this show, and you guys are all welcome to come and join me on the show. I think I said show more than once. Anyways, you can find me on Twitter at Heroic Studios, or you can hit me up on Instagram, Will at Heroic Studios. Both of my tags and links to my social media is right there. So please let me know if you guys are interested in coming onto the show. I will see you guys next time with another fun-filled, exciting